And 27 minutes and change until I got your countdown in there, Derek. I know you enjoy that.
I knew it was overdue.
Do you like my math skills?
I do.
I use my toes and my fingers and everything else, but that's how close we are to the Phillies 2023 season kicking off. I can't wait. I said, you know what? I got to talk to my man Murph, and Gregg Murphy was kind enough to join us from the great state of Texas. And you can follow Murph on Twitter at GMurphPhils. First pre and post game host for Phillies Radio Network. Murph, what's going on, my man?
How are you guys?
Good,
I'm
man.
Sitting here and I was listening to the Eagles talk, and Gunner, if Chris needs a tan, I don't know what I need. I'm gonna have to spend a couple of weeks out there.
Well, Murph, now that you brought it up, Murph, I don't want to say anything, but
well, we'll be in a dome tomorrow, so that's not gonna help.
Yeah, you'll be safe. No sunblock needed. Yeah, you're good. Murph, so much to get to, man. Let's just start with this. This is my favorite thing about sports is we all revert back to being little kids. You get the excitement. You're kind of giddy for this thing to get started. You've been doing this for a while. How pumped up are you for this 23 season, especially coming off of what this team was able to do last year?
Yeah, I think everybody is, honestly. And you're right. I've been doing this for a long time, and this is my, I think, 12th season with the Phillies and my 12th opening day as part of the broadcast team. And it never gets old. And, especially coming off of the excitement that we had last year. So unexpected, deep into the postseason, with a group of guys that really genuinely seemed to love playing with one another, and stepped up to the biggest moments. So it's a lot of fun. I've talked to a lot of the guys, obviously, over the last couple of weeks down in spring training, and they are equally excited to get this thing going. It's a long season. It's a grind. It all starts tomorrow, but I think everybody's ready to go.
Murph, let me ask you this, because people ask me this all the time. Do you still, for as long as you've been doing this, do you still get the butterflies in the first broadcast of a new season?
I do. It's not so much nerves, I guess. It's just excitement, right? And I would imagine, as sports fans, that's kind of how we all feel. We want it to be magical. We want it to be special. And there will be times this coming season that will be both those things. And there'll be times that will be challenging and frustrating and all of that, because that's the nature of a baseball season. But absolutely, if I didn't feel that way, maybe it would be time to be looking to do something else. So yeah, the excitement is definitely there. And I think we share that throughout the broadcast team. We share that through the clubhouse, the coaching staff, and everybody. Everybody's ready to go.
I just think they're stacked, man. I mean, I think we kind of closed the gap in the division. I'm looking at this season kind of like, I was telling these guys, I asked them, does this feel like, 08 as far as, the anticipation of this season? And I'm looking at the roster, even with the guys we have out right now, we filled in a team that's very competitive in the East.
Yeah. The addition of Trae Turner was such a game changer. And obviously that happened before they lose Rhys Hoskins, and Bryce is going to be out for a little bit. But Trae Turner is such a special player that he is going to really kind of transform the way this lineup looks. Right at the top of that lineup, a guy that gets on base, a guy that can run, a guy that can steal, a guy that can hit for power. I mean, he does it all, and he's a terrific defensive shortstop as well. Barrett, to your point, I do think it has that 08 feel. The difference, I think, this year than perhaps in 08 is that this division's pretty darn good. We know that. The Mets are really good, although they have a huge loss as well. And Edwin Diaz going down, he'll be out for the season. And the Braves are terrific as well. A lot of really good young arms in that rotation. So this National League East is going to be a juggernaut. But as we saw last year, Phillies finished third in the National League East. But as long as you get into that postseason tournament, anything can happen, and you can make your way to the postseason. So they're going to have to play well against their division rivals. They're going to have to play well against this balanced schedule that baseball has now, which I do think is a positive thing for the Phillies. I think it'll help the Phillies. It'll help the NL East in general. But I think all in all, there's that level of excitement, that 08 level of excitement, because they have the talent to compete. It's just a matter of staying healthy and doing it.
Murph, let's talk about first base, kind of a two-part here. Derek Hall is certainly going to get the first crack. Do you think when they face a lefty the first time around, he'll be the starter? And if, let's say, maybe he struggles, who's going to be the first guy they go to over there in lieu of him?
Yeah, so, what we're being told, and I'm sure you guys have heard this, Dave Dombrowski said it, Rob Thompson has said it, is that Derek Hall is going to play first base a good part of the time, including against left-handed pitchers. Now, if they face a particularly tough left-handed pitcher, then they might switch him out with a right-handed batter. And, they can do all kinds of different things over there. We saw Alec Bohm play first base yesterday in the final spring training game of the season. That will happen from time to time. I don't think that's going to be the go-to move. I think you could see Edmundo Sosa over there from time to time. I mean, he's a guy that can play just about anywhere. Nick Castellanos has started taking some ground balls at first base as well. I mean, there's all kinds of different scenarios that they could go to in terms of first base. But I do think you're going to see Derek Hall get the majority of those at-bats. And I think that's good. I think he's ready to go. When we saw him last year come up, the moment was not too big for him at that point. And in talking to him over the last couple of days, he feels as though he is ready. He is a guy that can go out and play almost every day and produce for this team. Certainly that's how the front office thinks about him, and he believes it himself. So that's the best case scenario. That's what they really need to happen. But from time to time, you'll see him lifted like anybody else against those tough lefties.
Murph, I know you talk to all those guys day in and day out being down there. Did you get a chance to talk to Rhys Hoskins after he found out about the ACL, and how down is he knowing that his season's over before it began?
You know what, Derek? I haven't, honestly.
Oh, okay.
So I saw Rhys yesterday for the first time since the injury, as he was getting on the airplane in front of me. I have not had a chance to talk to him. I'm hoping to talk to him tomorrow at some point. But I can tell you, in talking to others, and I did ask Dave Dombrowski that direct question when he talked to him, he said he's handling it about as well as you can, which, if you know Rhys Hoskins at all, that's exactly what you would expect. Rhys has been through some trials in his lifetime, both personally and professionally, and he just seems to step up and handle them as well as anybody can. Obviously, incredibly disappointed looking at this lineup, looking at this team, and knowing that he's probably not going to be a part of it for the entire regular season. You can't help but be disappointed. But knowing Rhys, he's going to face it head on. He's going to have the surgery on Thursday. He's going to come back. He'll be with this team. He'll be a positive influence on this team going forward. And who knows? Who knows? If they make the postseason and he is healthy and ready to go, maybe we see Rhys near the end of the season, which would be tremendous to see, because I'd love to see him in a Phillies uniform at least one more time, because he will be a free agent after this, so we don't know what's going to happen going forward.
Very true.
Is there any way that we go and get a fifth starter, until, Ranger gets back? I mean, in any way, would you do that?
Yeah, I'm sure they're beating the bushes. Fifth starters, starting pitching in general in baseball, pretty tough to find. Right now, Matt Strahm will be that number 5 starter for the Phils. Bailey Falter will be number 4. Certainly, it weakens your rotation with Ranger Suarez on the shelf early on. But again, long season, and you just hope that they can kind of weather the storm in April and kind of get through April and not fall too far behind. Look, Matt Strahm can do the job. He is a successful major league pitcher. He's not a guy that's going to go 6-7 innings when he gets his start, but they have ways to piggyback and guys that they can use to get through. The bullpen is a strength of this team, so we'll be able to kind of mix and match. But I'm sure Dave Dombrowski and Sam Fold are out there looking on the waiver wires. I mean, tomorrow's a big day. Opening day lineups will be set officially tomorrow in Major League Baseball. And maybe there is a name or two out there that the Phils take a chance on. So that remains to be seen. Certainly, I know they'll leave no stone unturned. That's pretty much how this front office goes about its business each and every day.
So Painter stays down. We're not going to bring him up. He's just going to stay down.
Yeah, Painter will probably start the season on the injured list.
Okay,
that's what I would imagine. And by doing so, they can free up a roster spot. So he'll start on the injured list. He'll probably begin soft toss in the next week or so. At least that was the original projection, that he would begin soft toss right around opening day. And then he'll have to obviously build back up. So we're not going to see Andrew Painter as part of this team probably for a couple of months, maybe June, if he's healthy and ready to go. So, but you talk about having a weapon down at AAA at that point. Certainly the Phils will have one once he's healthy.
Murph, any difference? It was a real whirlwind last year, as we know, but any difference in Rob Thompson now as the manager, not the guy trying to take the reins and figure this thing out after June? Any difference in his demeanor, his approach, anything like that?
Absolutely not. He is the exact person that he was when he was the bench coach and the exact person he was when he took over. You know, it's so funny. I spent a lot of time with Rob Thompson here in spring training at different events down here and obviously over at the ballpark as well. He is about as unflappable as they come. He is mellow and happy and positive all the time. And it's fun to see. And when you see him interact with his players and you see him, working around the cage with the guys and talking to them and meeting them in the clubhouse and having conversations, you can see that the guys genuinely appreciate his ability to communicate with them. I think it is such a gift that he has to connect with this generation of players, because there's an art to it for sure. And Rob has figured it out pretty quickly. And I think that's what Dave Dombrowski saw in him, originally to tap him to be the next manager. So, no, he hasn't changed at all. You know, he had a different role this year at spring training. He used to be the guy running the show. Mike Calitri did that this year. But Rob Thompson, just kind of pivoted and became the manager's role. And from all, from eyeballs out looking in, it certainly looked like he enjoyed it and did a terrific job.
Hey, Murph, what's your perspective on this Aaron Nola contract thing? I mean, Dombrowski basically said they're putting it at a distance right now. We hope to have him beyond this year, but, right now the two cannot come to a meeting of the minds.
Yeah. Negotiations, right? I mean, in big time sports, it can get dicey sometimes. I'll be honest. I was surprised. I was surprised that a deal was not able to be made before spring training was over. I'm not surprised that they've announced that they're going to shelve it and wait till the end of the season, because that's what happens. That's what is done in professional sports. Now, there's plenty of cases where you go back and they've said, okay, we're not going to talk until the end of the year. And then at the All-Star break, they announce a new contract. Anything is possible, but it's not out of the ordinary to say we're done talking until the season is over. I have to believe the Phillies want to keep Aaron Nola. I mean, you talk about a durable guy who has been tremendously successful in his career, a guy that everybody likes and wants in this clubhouse. So I'd like to be optimistic and think that he's going to be a Philly long term, but we're going to have to wait and see now at this point. Certainly, he deserves the numbers that he's aspiring to based on what he's done. So, it's just the wait and see at this point.
Looking at it offensively, I'm seeing a shift, man. We know they can bomb the ball out the park, man. But I see a little small ball, with the acquisition, of Trae Turner and their ability to get on base more. Do you see a shift to that now?
I do. I actually see that shift across baseball, Barrett. But I think the Phillies, to your point, have really kind of embraced that. Kevin Long. There's a lot of talk about Kevin Long as a hitting coach, and there should be, because I think he's really one of the best. I think when they were able to get Kevin to come on board on this coaching staff, we saw a noticeable shift in the way they approach offensively. And certainly there are guys that they want to hit balls out of the ballpark, and they're not going to hold those guys back. Guys like Kyle Schwarber, guys like Bryce Harper, but there are other guys that perhaps they say, you know what, the home runs will come, like a guy like Trae Turner, but get on base. Now, you don't have to tell Trae that. That's the approach he brought with him from Washington and Los Angeles. But if you watch him, certainly Trae's going to get his fair share of home runs. We saw that in the 2-week period of the World Baseball Classic, but he's an on-base guy. And I think Alec Boehm has kind of embraced that. Bryson Stott, we saw embrace that at the second half of the season last year. Certainly a guy like Edmundo Sosa is a guy like that. We see him hit home runs, but he is an on-base guy. So, yeah. And I think the new rules in baseball too, Barrett, will also help with that. Because now if you're a left-handed hitter and you come up, you're not seeing a wall of defenders over here on the right side and thinking, how am I going to get this over their heads unless I swing like this? Now, if you swing like this, a line drive can be a base hit. And I think that's going to go a long way to help them as well.
All right, Murph, let's not just gloss over Turner. I mean, this is insane what he's done between spring training and the World Baseball. 478 in the spring, 2 home runs, 7 runs driven in. I think he had 5 in the World Baseball Classic and was the best of the best. Man, I mean, you just think about the possibilities of this guy with these rules changes in this park, in this lineup, and your head starts spinning.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, when the 4 shortstops were out there during free agency in this offseason, I mean, all four of them are all-star caliber players. But I think across the board, and I would argue across baseball and front offices and fans and players alike, I think the general consensus was Trae Turner's probably the best of the bunch as a most complete player. Well, you know, one guy might be a better defender, one guy might hit for a little bit more power, but when you put the tools all together, Trae Turner can do everything on a baseball field. And to be able to stick him at the top of your lineup and add him to what is already an extremely potent lineup, it's just remarkable to think the impact that he might have. You know, we're going to have to wait a couple of months to see Bryce Harper in this lineup with him as well. But you add Bryce back in, and you start dreaming about what this lineup can do from top to bottom. But Trae is the kind of guy, he's a catalyst. He's a very likable guy in the clubhouse. He's a character guy. So for all those reasons, he fits well into this team. But from a talent standpoint, there are very few that can rival him at this point.
Murph, do you think the rule changes speeding up the game will help rejuvenate interest among fans, especially in our youth in America? Because the art of baseball has been lost on today's youth in America.
Yeah, you know, Derek, I do. The simple answer is I think it's going to help. I mean, we've seen the action in spring training. I don't know how many games you've gotten a chance to watch, but certainly it moves now. It moves. There's so much more action. There's very little downtime in between at bats, in between innings. It just feels like the action is kind of pressing, and I think that's a positive in any sport across the board. I would, you know, argue a little bit that the interest is down in baseball. I mean, if you look at the numbers, if you look at the ratings, if you look at the World Baseball Classic and the numbers, I do think baseball is still enjoying a great deal of popularity. But that said, I've been a baseball fan my entire life, and there were games over the past couple of years where I'm like, oh my gosh, let's get this one finished, right? You know, because it can drag a little bit. So the idea of the rules, the spirit of the rule is to try and eliminate as much of that as possible without disrupting the spirit of the game. And I think there's going to be a learning curve. There's still some issues they need to work out, but I think ultimately it's going to work. And I think so far it's worked pretty good. And I hope that it does have that desired effect. And I think it will.
How do you sense the players are? Like, did they adapt quickly, Murph? Are they have they adapted more quickly than they thought they would? Like, where are they going into? Now it counts. It's one thing in spring training. Now it's real.
Yeah, you know, I think for the most part, they've adapted because they have to, right? You know, they don't have much of a choice. So they have adapted. Not all of the players like all of the new rules, and that's to be understood. Of course, you're not going to get everybody in agreement on that. However, you know, the pitchers don't have a choice. The hitters don't have a choice. The rules are in place. You know the penalties, so you have to adapt. And it's been interesting to watch, you know, some of the traditional or the guys that over the course of the years, you know, are very slow out on the mound. We saw Chris Bassett of the Blue Jays the other day. He's notorious for being a slow worker. And that 15-second clock got down to 2 and 1 almost every time before he threw his pitch, but only one violation the entire game. I think he went 6 innings in that game. So he's been able to figure it out. He's using the whole 15 seconds, but he's getting the pitch off in time. Hitters the same way. You know, you're not seeing the adjusting of the batting gloves like we've seen before. You're not seeing guys step out and walk around the plate, and that's a good thing. I don't want to see that, right? Yep. You know, guys with routines are getting into the box quicker. They're getting through the routines quicker, and they're getting ready to go because they have to. So it's like anything else, you know, you're going to adapt. And if you don't adapt, they're going to find somebody that does. So whether they like it or not, at this point, doesn't really matter. It is what it is. So they've got to figure it out.
A little worried about Harper. I got to tell you, a little worried about Harper with this one.
Well, and he's been asked about that, and he has said he's not concerned about it. Okay. I don't think he's thrilled about it.
Yeah.
However, he has said, you know, I'm ready to make the adjustment. So it'll be interesting to see because, yeah, he has a very specific routine that he goes through. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes for him. But, you know, a guy like Bryce will figure it out because that's the kind of player he is.
Yeah.
Murph, something you just said piqued my interest. You said, talking to players, they're not all in favor of these rule changes. What has been the consensus in terms of a percentage, the one rule that the players really are grumbling about?
Well, I think the most talk has been about the timer for sure.
Okay.
So both pitchers and hitters have had to adjust. It affects everybody on the playing field every play. So I think that one's getting the most focus, and I think that's the one that the players have reacted, you know, whether it be positively or negatively, the most to. And, you know, we've heard some players be very outspoken about not liking it. You know, the rule that you can't throw over to first base now more than 2 times without getting him on that third attempt. That's all stems from the pitch timer because they needed to put that rule in place because that would have been an easy work around the pitch timer if you could just throw over to first base every time. So, you know, you understand why they put that rule in place. So I think at the end of the day, the pitch timer is really the one that most people are talking about. The size of the bases, that really hasn't been much of an issue in spring training. The shift, you know, I'm sure there are players that don't like the shift, but I think most hitters probably like the shift. And I got to believe middle infielders like the idea that you can't shift anymore either. You know, it shows off their athletic talent a little bit more and kind of brings us back to the game that we all remember. So I haven't heard a whole lot of negativity about the shift. One thing the players don't love, the middle infielders, is that they have to start on the dirt. You know, you get a guy like Aaron Judge at the plate, and you're standing on the dirt. You want to be 3 feet into the grass.
You want to be in the parking lot.
You can't do that
anymore.
I've heard a little grumbling about that, but again, it's minor, so they'll get used to it. They're gonna have to.
All right, Murph, give me your opening day best lineup you think that'll get them through the season.
Right on the spot.
Yeah. Oh gosh, you're gonna have to help me out here. Well, I mean, I think we're gonna see Turner at the top and then Schwarber, right?
Yeah.
JT probably batting third, and I guess
you could go Hall 4, maybe if you want to go right. If you do the righty lefty.
Yeah, you know that's
thing.
the thing. You know they'll flip flop, but you know I'll do it this way. You're going to see Derek Hall probably at cleanup, and he's going to play first. And Stott will probably bat in that 6-7 spot. I think he and Bohm are going to kind of, depending on lefty righties, they'll flip back and forth in the back end of that lineup. Brandon Marsh is your center fielder. He's going to bat probably ninth. Put a little speed at the back end of that lineup, a guy that can get on base for Turner.
JT at 5?
Yeah, what's that?
You put JT at 5?
JT, perhaps, yeah, or JT at 3 or 5, depending, again, on the matchups. Who are we missing?
Cave.
Yeah, Jake Cave.
Probably Cave, yeah,
out there. Well, if Marsh is playing, he'll be in center. Castellanos, that's what we're missing. Your right fielder. And you know, he's a guy that we haven't even touched on.
Huge.
Yet.
He might be the key to the whole thing.
You talk about a linchpin for this team. They're really going to have to, you know, I believe he's going to have a bounce back season. I just think he's too good of a hitter not to. But if he can get going in the middle of that lineup, batting, you know, 5th, 6th, 4th, 5th, 6th, anywhere in that area, again, it's just when you stop to think about it, it can be pretty special. And I think he'll be DHing a lot as well. So we'll see that.
All right, Murph, you got so the call tomorrow for the 3:30 tomorrow, right, for a 4 o'clock start, and then immediately after the game, locally WIP, but all the Phillies radio networks, correct?
That is correct, and we're looking forward to it. We're going to bring some of the on-field ceremonies to the fans back home as the players get introduced here in Texas, and obviously the ovation won't be as loud and raucous as it will be a week from tomorrow, but we'll bring you some of that and Rob Thompson's interview with Scott Fransky and all that good stuff as well. So we're ready to go, gearing up for game one. It's hard to believe it's here already.
I know you're in a dome tomorrow. How's the weather? Should we be jealous?
No, you should not. It's a little overcast, and it's about maybe 60 here today. I think it's supposed to get warmer as the week progresses here in Texas. We're here for 5 or 6 days,
right?
Because of the 2 off days. So it is supposed to get warmer, but you know, we're playing in the dome, so won't much matter. And then up to New York, where I think it's going to be pretty chilly for games 4, 5, and 6.
I hear you.
Well, and Murph, you're not going to get any sympathy from us because our last guest just called us from Arizona, though. So, Phoenix, you know,
I just spent 5 weeks in Clearwater, Florida, so I don't deserve it.
Hey, at least it's supposed to be 71 here on Saturday, so that's
there you go.
There you go.
You're doing better than we are.
Yes.
80% chance of rain, though.
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna be a little wet. Murph, we appreciate it, man. Follow Murph at GMurphPhils on Twitter, and of course, pre and post on the radio side for the Phillies games the entire season. Murph, appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Good,
I love talking to you guys. Good to see you.
Man.
All right, Gregg Murphy, kind enough to hop on, give us a couple minutes. All right, fellas, let's hit it. Let's get back to the pigskin here. We'll do some NFL stuff when we get back. Some number issues, which we will discuss, and one player changing a number, big name. The Thursday Night Football flex has taken a little bit of a turn, so we'll dig into that and more Lamar Jackson stuff, all kinds of stuff in store when we return. Don't go anywhere. That's Derek Barrett. I'm Rob. We're Sports Take JAKIB. Oh, more White Castle.
How is that, man? That's like the fourth one you've had, dude. How many of you eat?
5th.
5?
This is a cheat day. This is a cheat day. Yeah.
That's a death day. 5 already? Did you warm them up?
What are we going for here? How many what are we looking at? 8? 8-ish?
Last one.
Okay.
This will be my last one.
What's your record in one day?
13. No, 13 at one time.
At one time? The minis or the big ones?
Minis.
Yeah, sliders.
I mean, hold on. White Castle only has sliders.
I'm just
bro.
playing, man. 13 in one day?
Let's see if he's got that thing finished by the time we get back. All right. We confident? I'm confident he's going to have that done before I finish this live read. But
absolutely.
Derek Gunn, Barrett Brooks, I'm Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take. Let's talk about Flynn Tree Services. Yes, Flynn Tree Services is an experienced, licensed, and insured Pennsylvania tree services company that will trim or remove any unwanted trees off of your property. They service southeastern Pennsylvania, South Jersey, northern Delaware. Flynn Tree Services specializes in tree removal, stump grinding, as well as tree pruning. Now, keep in mind, just into spring here, all right? We might be away from the winter stuff, but, you know, the weather gets nicer. You get some wind, some rain. You want to make sure you get your trees evaluated before we get to that point, before you have a bigger issue. Okay, go to their Facebook or Instagram page for a sampling of their work or more information. Give them a call, 610-850-2848, 610-850-2848, or online at FlynnTreeServices.com. That's